It is time to announce our last speaker for today. It is online. It is Zinka Bejtic. I couldn't describe that woman. I'm really sorry she couldn't join us in Tuzla, but I believe you will be able to feel her energy. She's a successful woman, educator, TEDx speaker. She's an expert in cognitive pedagogy. She has over 24 years of experience in teaching, and I'm like 24 years old. Zinka is a great mentor, and she is Associate Dean at the College of Architecture, Art, and Design. Her topic, break away from the mold and live creatively. Sometimes I caught myself and I think, oh, I need to be more creative. And how to do that, and how that can benefit us, there is no better person for that topic except Zinka. Zinka, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for the invitation. It's really a pleasure for me to be here and be a part of such a progressive event and share my knowledge and experience. I guess when you were talking, yeah, it sounds like I'm older. I have acquired a lot of experience, and I'm very passionate about sharing it. And today's topic, even though initially I was supposed to talk about interdisciplinarity, I chose to talk about creativity because it is covering the area of interdisciplinarity, but from a different angle. And this is something that that has emerged from the conversations with young people that I have on a continuous level as a main issue. And I've had an opportunity now to listen to some of the questions and part of the panel discussion. And it really still pinpoints the most kind of troubles that young people anywhere in the world are experiencing. And this is my presentation, not in a way to educate, but hopefully to inspire and to allow you guys to start to think about questions that you need to be asking instead of answers that you should be getting. So breaking the mold and living creatively, whichever way I spell the mold, it would imply a different thing. I am thinking about the mold as in something concrete that we are pushed against, but mold can also be part of the problems in the house, that when things become stale, it happens. So there's always a need to renovate. So whichever way we look at it, there is definitely a meaning. So just a brief intro about myself. I have been born in Bosnia during the war. I went to Canada as a refugee and back and forth to Sarajevo. And for the last 9 years, I've been working in the United Arab Emirates as Associate Dean and now head of the Department of Art and Design. My journey has been wiggly. I'm proud of it. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. And this is going to be one of the conclusions of today's presentations. As you can see, my bachelor degree is in visual communication, my master's is in digital media, and my PhD is in educational psychology, which is a beautiful way to sort of encompass this idea of different trajectories and enabling yourselves to follow your curiosities and passions. And I'm a professor. I've been teaching for 24 years. And aside from that, I also like to think of myself as a designer and film editor, very passionate about post-production, sound design. I have been working in academic administration for over 10, 11 years because I'm always passionate about community, helping others, not just solely serving my own interests and personal agenda. That is always implied when you think about the environment and how you can help all those around you. I'm also a researcher of intrinsic motivation, creativity, and I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own platform. I'm teaching educators how to teach. And I'm also very much passionate about real estate and investing. And this is something I sort of treat as a hobby, but it's almost like a main source of my income. So it's just to sort of describe different aspects that I have been able to accommodate within my career during this I will not say relatively short time, but about 20 years. So let's start with creativity. So if I ask you, are you creative? And be honest with yourselves. What is the first thing that you would think about? You would probably wonder if I'm asking you if you're able to express your artistic abilities. And I know this because still many people associate creativity with thinking that they're not able to paint or draw and that they're not creative. But I want you to walk away from today's lecture, hopefully, if you're not aware of this, knowing that creativity is actually our highest cognitive function. It's everyone's superpower. And it's definitely one that we do not use often enough. So we know that creativity has been a topic of discussion and research in the field of psychology, among others, for approximately 60 years actively. And still there's no definite answer to questions such as what makes people creative? How can creativity be measured, for example? How can it be enhanced? Is it a talent or is it ability? Are we born creative or can we acquire it? And finally, why does it even matter? Who cares? But I'm here to tell you that we should all care, because creativity I'm talking about today is reflected in our mindset. And this is what makes the difference in the way we perceive and live our lives ultimately, the way we understand and nurture our talents, our abilities, and the one that enables us to take risks, be able to pursue our goals and ultimately chase our dreams. So we create a life that we believe is worth living. So I'll be talking about what is creativity, how are we molded, why should you care, and how to break free ultimately and live creatively. So if you look for definitions, you'll be overwhelmed by the number of those that show up, and you will not find a single right definition because it doesn't really exist. What does exist is people's attempts to define creativity, and all of their definitions are influenced by their own unique worldviews, also their expertise, their set of skills, and so on. So this is just a brief overview of some very interesting ones. And if you're, of course, interested, please feel free and try to find others, and you will see that there are many. So the emergence of novel, rational product growing out of uniqueness of the individual, tapping into your soul and your intuition, allowing them to guide you what to make. An idea that's novel, good, and useful, making connections between different ideas to solve a new problem. And Seth Godin's, this might not work. So all of these translate into notions that by being creative, we bring something new into existence, and we sort of transcend the existing norms. We challenge the status quo. By being creative, you make new connections. You tap into yourself, into your intuition, and ultimately you put to work your imagination. So before I continue, I will just break down a few myths about creativity that maybe you're sharing or you heard of, because as I've mentioned, not everyone agrees on the importance of creative thinking today. And there's no consensus what it means to be creative. Therefore, a lot of these ideas are flying around. So creativity is about artistic expression, as I've mentioned in the beginning. We all value and admire painters, sculptors, poets for their creativity, but think about it. And I'm sure all of you are coming from different disciplines. Can you be creative too? Can scientists be creative when they work on experiments and when they develop new theories? Can medical doctors be creative when they diagnose diseases? Can entrepreneurs be creative? They're developing new products or conquering markets. Can politicians be creative when they develop new policies? Of course. So it's all about thinking about things from different angle and following the unconventional path, being unique. Another myth is that only a small segment of the population is creative. And in this view, Winners of Nobel Prizes are creative, for example, or are acclaimed artists whose works are on display at museums. But for regular people, not as much. But this is not true, because everyone is creative. We just have to unlearn the patterns of compliance and conformity that we have been raised with. And I will spend large majority of presentation talking about that. Creativity doesn't come in a flash of insight. You've heard popular stories that often revolve around those aha moments, like Isaac Newton recognized the universal nature of gravitational force, for example, when he was sitting beneath the apple tree and was hit by the apple on the apple on the head. And the reality is that most scientists, inventors, and artists understand that creativity is a long-term process. And ultimately, that we can't teach creativity. So we know that babies come into this world full of curiosity. They want to touch things, they want to interact, explore. And as they grow older, they still continue to desire to express themselves, talking, singing, drawing, building, dancing. And there are many people who think, among them Sir Ken Robinson, who is a great authority in creativity, in my opinion, and really someone who I could say is my role model, claims that the best way we can support children in and enable them to remain creative is to simply get out of their way. And we shouldn't try to teach creativity. We should just stand back and let them continue to be curious. However, there are issues with the rigid structures in schools and some homes that ultimately squelch children's curiosity and creativity. So what I believe is that we can nurture creativity, and it will develop on its own. It just needs encouragement and support. So today we are living in this interesting times when creativity is really becoming the buzzword. And why is that? It's because of this increased interest in the whole area of creativity and its impact on the fields of psychology, neuroscience, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence, for example, just to name the few. There was a study by Future of Jobs by World Economic Forum that actually found creativity as one of the top 3 most important skills for future workers, along with complex problem solving and critical thinking. And imagine, the report actually noted that by the year 2030, 80% of the jobs that will exist at that time, by year 2030, have not even been invented yet. So when we think about the way that new technologies are transforming the way we think, we work, play, and generally relate to one another, it's clear that things are shifting very rapidly. And add to that the fact that population is increasing, and we understand how important it is to nurture our unique potential and abilities, and this creative mindset that would hopefully allow us for this continuous growth and flexibility. Because you guys, when you start working or enter the workforce, you will not be working in the same place for the rest of your life or having just one career. You will have to be flexible and grow and evolve every step of the way. The problem is that many of our established ways of doing things in business, for example, or education, are still rooted in old ways of thinking. And to face today's challenges in general and thrive in this new world, you would have to recognize that cultivating this innate power of imagination, creativity that leads to innovation is not a luxury that some of us can have. It's not an option, but it's actually necessity, and it's pretty urgent that we understand this. These challenges will affect everyone. No one will be able to hide. Anyone who is actually, I will not say serious about our career, but we all know that more and more today people are defined through what they do. I'm not saying this is right, but this is the direction we're going. And this is another discussion, another topic. But we're getting slowly at the root of the problem. Even though I have been in education for so long, I am very much aware of all the issues that we have. And you guys have just, in these 10 minutes that I've listened to the forum before me, the panel, I've heard that some of them have been identified. Schools, universities do not prepare us adequately to meet the challenges. And sometimes they even do more damage than good. And don't get me wrong, again, education is important. It's valuable. And many, many, many of us are really trying to do what we can. But what I'm commenting on right now is the system, educational system, which does not support this creative mindset. And instead, it puts us in these molds, in this silos type of thinking styles. And it doesn't allow students, or I will say all of us, because I've been through that system, to open up our minds to different possibilities. And I'm very passionate about, personally passionate about promoting the idea of helping students rediscover their creative mindset. And I really believe that it has to become one of the main priorities of education everywhere at all levels. And why? I think it's because this is the key to preparing everyone for these uncertainties that future will bring, because stakes are really high. So why do I say this? So if I take you back quickly and elaborate, we all know that children are naturally creative. As they progress through educational system, they learn to conform and are systematically conditioned to comply. They learn that being wrong is not acceptable, and that being obedient, by being obedient, they achieve certain social acceptance. So this is really a big issue that we are facing today. So why do you think this happens? As we go through school system, we learn to associate experimentation and failing with something that is extremely bad, and we become afraid of it. So creativity is the ability to explore, and it's not solely to do with arts or about being an artist, because artistry can be applied to any discipline. It's usually either fostered or suppressed by authority figures, whether family members or within the educational institutions and the environments that we grow up in. So it is during these times that we learn and form our thinking patterns, associations, we develop critical judgment, and we diminish, I would say, our ability to imagine and to listen to our intuition and learn more about ourselves. We're focused outwards instead of inwards. And I am aware that the current mass education system does not nurture passion, imagination, or the intuition that I've mentioned. It's mostly built on two pillars that there's nothing wrong with, but it's missing a third component that I've just described. The first pillar is economic, which is shaped by specific assumptions that the creators of the system have about the work markets, by many of which are outdated. And the second pillar is intellectual. And this is solely focused on achieving academic excellence. Young children enter preschool with creative confidence. And at the time they leave high school, I would say many have lost it entirely. And they feel demotivated, lost, confused as they enter university. And they're anxious already to succeed, but they don't have the sense of self, or they don't understand why the success really matters, other than earning that credential that would get them to the next step. So very briefly, how did we get here? I will not get into the history of education, but I will just draw a parallel to paint the severity of the issue. So it was from early 1800s onwards that mass education was prompted by the industrialization to develop basically wealthy middle class. And it was seen as a way to social improvement and economic growth. So the main goal was to produce skilled, obedient workers who will play their part in this complex machinery within the emerging workforce. And it worked perfectly for that time. And educational institutions were developed on this industrial model, and they looked very similar to factories. Schools were set up on a set of clear boundaries that separated them from different institutions. So we've had exact hours of operation, rules of conduct, all based on these ideas of standardization, equality, and compliance. Students were at the time taught the same material, assessed against common parameters. There were few opportunities for personal choice, and they progressed through the system in age groups similar to assembly line, and they moved from room to room, year to year, to be fed the information, knowledge, skill, whatever it is, systematically until they reach the end of the journey and are finally educated, the end. They have acquired necessary knowledge, some, to different degrees, some better, some worse, and they can now join the workforce where they will continue to work until they happily retire. So luckily, not much has changed in the world since then. So we all have nothing really to worry about. Right. So to our horror, the place that has not changed is the classroom, actually. Over 100 and something years later, most schools and universities teach in similar ways. For the most part, still many educational institutions, it's through these monologue type lectures that teachers deliver the knowledge while students remain recipients. And you think, how is this possible? Because we live today in a world that where knowledge is not scarce. Teacher, book, library, university are not the only sources of knowledge. So we are able to learn the way we want to, whatever we want to, yet we're still being forced into these molds until our self-confidence is shattered and we stop to think and question our reality, or if we do, we're very much discouraged. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not devaluing the knowledge that is being transferred, but I'm a witness of generation of demotivated students who are really struggling to find meaning in the process, struggling to find their place, passion, or a career that ultimately they would be able to excel at. And simply being good or excelling at core subjects such as math and writing will not help them solve their problems. So we all have, when you think about it, feelings and opinions, values, motivations. We are all brought to this world with hopes and aspirations, yet all this time you've been taught to keep silent, to comply and conform to the rules that are most likely irrelevant and made several decades ago. When you think about it, today, for even my generation, I've never been learning more than I am today. And for you guys as well, education will not stop after university or grad school. It will continue. And we are all already lifelong learners. Schools need to teach us how to learn. Professors need to mentor us how to ask the right questions, develop and nurture this whole critical and curious mind, and how to assemble everything that we learn into a meaningful life story. And paradox is that many educational institutions, or many of us see education as preparation for something that will come later. And this is not true, because we learn while we breathe. It's a journey of self-discovery, and it will always be a way for us to engage with the present. So some of the barriers that happen to creativity are actually the result of the way we've been brought up and educated. One of the main things is that we dislike uncertainty. it makes us uneasy. A certain world is happier world, and we work hard to reduce whatever uncertainty we can. And it's often done on a subconscious level through these habitual practical choices that protect us and our status quo. So creativity, on the other hand, requires a different mindset, requires novelty and imagination, because this is when new possibilities open up. And some of them some of which you are never going to be aware of until you take on this mindset and you stop being afraid. So when you think about fear, and this is the first image, it's the number one barrier to creativity and innovation. We're all afraid of something, or we were at some point. Fear of failure, fear of ridicule, or of making a mistake, of taking risks, of not being promoted, of not getting a good grade, anything, fear of the unknown. And then on top of that, we're under pressure to produce immediate results. Then this type of thinking leads to either or, either be creative or innovative, or you'll be productive and produce results and forget about different ways of thinking. And each of us brings a mix, obviously, of our own biases from our own belief system and background. And this is also creating a tunnel vision sometimes and allowing us to fail in the sense of being not being able to see a big picture because of these biases. So because of all of this, it's easy to fall into the trap of following the system and believing in this credentialism. And I will just bring it up. And for all of you guys who are interested in any of this, you can find more information if you just look at the concept of credentialism and why are we obsessed with it. It's actually chasing recognition, because it's an easy way out. There's no personal investment. We just follow the rules that were imposed by the society. So the purpose of our life when we're chasing these symbols of credentialism is the accumulation of these gold stars, degrees, certificates. And this is why when you think about, there's this whole generation of so-called helicopter parents who are obsessed with their children's success, and they fill their children's schedules with extracurricular activities, starting from the time they're able to walk, even preparing them for the university. And this is why the kids grow up not seeing learning as an end in itself. They're not able to imagine doing anything that they can't put on their CV. And it shifts the mindset from this creative, open mindset into this constructed, molded mindset, and not a happy outcome for sure. So when you think, you might ask, so if not for credentials, what is the university education for? Isn't the only purpose of education to get us a job? Jobs matter, of course. I'm not taking away the importance of that. Financial security matters. But the question is that all? Is that the only thing that matters? When you think about it, life has to be more than a job. And ideally, your job will be more than your salary. So take a moment and ask yourselves these questions. Are you interested in finding the job or having a calling? And the distinction will be the mindset. So the mindset is where the problem lies. And as I've mentioned, I've talked to many young people, and the state of current mindset that they have is very worrying. Many are under immense pressure. Maybe some of you guys will relate to this, and we are all yet to understand how grave the situation is. And I'm not talking about consequences of COVID. It's been building up for years. Today's kids, I would say, all of you work much harder to get into university, to get the right education. Then when you get in, you work harder to achieve good results. And when you leave, your qualifications are worth less than it was the case with us or older generations. And for me, the worst part is that the pressure really begins early, even at the time of preschool. And as you progress through university, the pressure to succeed becomes more intense, with even cases of students that I've heard taking performance-enhancing drugs to help them maintain focus and achieve excellence. And in order to maintain social status. Students are often under additional pressure to appear as laid back as possible. And because you all want to be, and I was the same way, this is human nature. We want to be perceived as successful and talented and bright. We all want to fit in. So these pressures are really mounting, and it's too difficult to bear at times. And students are suffering the consequences, and it's often in silence. So when we understand that the world has shifted in so many ways, and yet we're still shaping young people's minds based on the idea that the only measure of success is their academic achievement, we are sending the message, be all, achieve it all, or you're worthless. And I have a big problem with that. Many people might be excelling academically, but under the surface, they do not feel that they're learning any personal or soft skills they need to deal with today's problems, fast-paced life, demanding life. They learn to just cope. And as an educator, I always ask, where does this lead us? It's a big question that is difficult to answer, but I really feel that we all have to take responsibility for what's happening. How are we supporting future generations? Are we all truly doing the best we can? Knowing that the system is not easy to change, what is it that you can do immediately to help yourself shift your perspective and change your mindset? While you're still in school, search for good teachers. And this was again brought a while ago, and in a way it could answer some of the questions you might have. Find mentors, find role models, surround yourself with people who you think are better than you. We always have this tendency here, especially it's part of the mentality, Balkan mentality, you know, we always want to stand out, feel more powerful, feel superior, but it's actually the opposite that will get you to succeed. Find people who are better than you so you can aspire to them. You will have a direct role model, not read a book and try to get the message, but see what they do, ask them a question. Become friends, become close, and find great teachers. There's so many. They're not that hard to find, but it was also the comment, being proactive, taking responsibility. Great teacher will awake you and inspire you. We're all familiar with the way this feels because we've had great teachers who had played this role for us. Teaching for me is never only about transferring information from my brain to another one. It's to awaken the power that lies asleep within the student, to inspire curiosity and creativity. And after years of being a teacher, I know that you guys don't want us to entertain you in class or hand out easy A's. What you want is for us to challenge you and to feel that we care. So this is what I think is important, finding mentorship, finding someone who will validate your experience and who you will be able to connect with. And on top of everything, to go back to interdisciplinarity, great teachers are not bound to a discipline or to a disciplinary ideas, but they are able to connect the content with anything to which might be relevant in their own world, but also your world. They connect it to their experience, but they also connect it to yours. And this is exactly what I think builds relevance and connection to the person, but also to the discipline. So the connection I've mentioned bridges these disciplines, and the connection is actually what inserts the A into STEM, making it a STEAM. And this is the connection we all need. Now, more than ever, human communities depend on this diversity of talents, not on a singular conception of ability. And we go back to human intelligence, and we think that it has much greater potential than what we have believed in the past by this whole academic industrial education aspect. And appreciating this potential of human intelligence is really important for understanding the nature of creativity itself. Many people have assumptions about differences between arts and sciences, and sciences are thought of being about knowledge, facts, and objectivity, while arts are more about emotions and self-expression, subjectivity. Many think sciences are very useful, pragmatic, and arts are sort of dispensable. And when you think in reality, one can't go without the other. In reality, there are many similarities in these creative processes and much closer connections, I would say, between them that bridge the gap. Science, as well as the arts, I would say, have considerable influence on the way we feel about the world, and the recognition of common creative processes in both arts and sciences led to a range of collaborative projects and to the beginning of what may prove to be a new sort of renaissance in our time. And the relationship between thinking and feeling has to be strengthened. So it brings us to a question: how do you live creatively? So my advice is assess your ability to imagine. Imagination is the source of our creativity and this creative mindset that will liberate you from this mold. But also note that imagination and creativity are not the same thing. Imagination is the ability to bring to mind things that are not present, and creativity is a step further from imagination. You can be lying on your bed imagining all day. No one will ever know. But when you actually get up and start doing things, that's actually creativity. When you act on your imagination, you are being creative and you are making tangible progress, one that will lead you in the right direction. And the third step is innovation, because through innovation, you put these new ideas into practice. And innovation is applied creativity. Thinking about it's not a prescription, it's just my experience and my advice. And it boils down to, in my life, I think I succeeded because I didn't know at the time, but I pushed through the pain. No pain and no gain. You've heard it and you think, what's pain got to do with it? We all have our comfort zones, and we have all felt negative sensations when we leave it, whether that's through physical, mental, emotional exertion. Once we expand our boundaries, we grow. Only then. And these events are the ones that shape your character, your worldview, and your beliefs. And it's through persevering through those difficult and challenging times that you expand and change, and you allow this creative mindset to develop. And these changes within us build our self-confidence, and suddenly you're able to see new possibilities, new goals, sometimes acting as catalyst for these, different shifts in worldview. And it will not happen when you're sitting comfortably on your couch, binge watching Netflix and wondering why the entire world hates you and dwelling on your misery. We've all had those moments as well. But it's when you get up, you challenge yourself, you make yourself suffer to an extent that you're comfortable with, stretch your boundaries, your patience. You make yourself feel almost like an outsider a bit, embrace how different you are. It's those times when you sacrifice, and you notably sacrifice, when your friends are partying and you have to work, while everyone is sleeping, you're studying. While everyone is going one way, you go the other. When you're the first one to come to class and last one to leave, when you work hard, when you take the road that's less traveled, and you know for sure that you feel it inside, your gut feeling is alive, that something's going to happen. There will be results, and they will come. I guarantee it. There's no way that they won't. This is the mindset that leads to growth. And these experiences of awe, wonder, inspiration, connection to something greater than the self, like it's almost like an awakening, and the gift of this realization of interconnection of things that lead people to ultimately see the world in a different way. So you need to open up to different experiences and different possibilities. And these changes don't have to be reserved for big sacrifices. You can also do and practice these shifts through everyday experiences. Open up your world just a little bit more. Maybe having an interesting conversation, approaching someone that you might be a little bit intimidated by, going to a company that you wish to intern in and tell them that you're excited and you want to try, and you know, trying different things, trying to understand another person's viewpoint. Maybe reading a book that challenges your philosophy, life philosophy. Maybe you decide to meditate. Maybe you connect with nature. You start to care for others, volunteer in some shelters, helping someone with something you feel good at, giving something back, visiting a place that you've never been to before, even if it's just around the corner from your house. So my recommendation is to learn to take risks and be prepared to fail. And don't just be prepared, but embrace it. Because when you do, because of the mindset you're embracing and developing, you will get up and you will try again, and you will see that it's actually not a big deal. And as you grow and you evolve, you'll do it faster. You'll get up every time it happens, and you'll almost laugh. I'm not what has happened to me. I'm what I choose to become. And this is something I live by. Creative people, and I do consider myself to be creative, are unwilling to abide by conventional ways of thinking and acting. And I love breaking from tradition and routine in order to create new patterns. I always ask questions, even of myself. I seek new answers, and this excites me. It makes me feel alive. It entertains me, also feeds my curiosity. I know that defying the norm takes courage. It's not just to generate, but share your extravagant ideas. You have to be willing to be a bit of a troublemaker, as I said. So ask yourself this question: are you an outsider? Do you feel like an outsider? If so, in what way? How are you different? Are you told that you're different, that you're unique? Are you not afraid to speak your mind? Do you care what people will say? Are you following your own path, marching to the beat of your own drum? Do you question everything, or you take things for granted and you'd rather follow? If that's the case, dig deep and find out why. Find a role model, find a mentor, someone you're inspired by, and try to continue to learn or open up this whole process of understanding yourself and finding the right challenges. We often want the answers right now, all the answers immediately, but this is part of the problem, because right now in this stage of life, in your 20s, all you need are the right questions, and the answers will come later. So this is again a slide of my personal trajectory, things that I'm interested in that don't define me, but are areas of my curiosity and endeavors. And I really say I'm lucky because I have a job that I love. I don't feel like I'm working. It's not a job, it's really a calling. I failed so many times. I'm grateful for every challenge that I faced, because it taught me about my own strength and perseverance. And when you learn to truly see yourself, there's nowhere to hide. And that's the best part. Then only you can start to reinvent your life and learn to never settle. When I was your age, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that I liked to draw and I was into arts, but not much more than that. And it's through these struggles that I imposed on myself that I found out what I'm capable of, and how after each struggle, always came a reward. And today I am an accomplished professional, as I've mentioned, a professor and filmmaker, and I have all these other careers. And even though I have all these credentials, I don't allow them to define me. And it's also about having modesty and being connected with people and the community. For me, I like to think of myself as a caring, curious person who really thrives from connecting with others and giving back. Because it is true, we only have what we give, and we are only as strong and powerful as our immediate communities, be it family, friends, professional circles. So always learn to look around and see those around you. Use your energy to push them, so then you will get it from them when you need it, and create these strong bonds that will help move everyone in the right direction, because no man is an island. And the older you get, the more you will realize that we all strive towards fulfilling a purpose, and you are now discovering it. And this is why I chose this topic. So to hopefully inspire you as you start your journey. Think about
Zinka,
what are you good at?
I'm so sorry that I interrupted you,
Sure.
but I believe that we have so many questions, and if that's fine with you, I would like to share some, and then we can continue with your presentations if you agree.
Okay, I have, yeah, I guess let's do it like that. I have 2 more slides, but
okay.
yeah.
Then you can finish.
Let me finish.
Okay, sure.
I'm sure there are questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so quickly, what is the meaning of life? It's a stereotypical philosophical question, abstract, pointless. You think, what is the meaning of life? Let's now dwell for 7 hours. But rephrase it. What is the meaning of my life? And this is not the question, trust me, that you want to ask, like wake up when you're 40 and ask yourself. Trust me. So how do you find your vocation, your passion? That can be the hardest question that you face. My advice is to start, think about what you like to do spontaneously. If there's nothing, think about what you did spontaneously when you were a kid, before the spontaneity got beaten all out of you completely by the educational system and the society norms. What would you do if you didn't get rewarded or paid for it? What is it that ultimately you can do for hours in this flow? If you haven't read about the flow, please do. Immersing yourself when you forget about the time. What do you love? Not what you think you should love, but what you really love to do. And if you don't know, then try different experiences. I know material wealth does bring some satisfaction to all of us, brings comfort, but true happiness and joy can really only come from feeling connected to yourself and others and engaging in this work that's meaningful for you. So this meaning you will find through this creative mindset and creative living. And I hope you walk away from today's presentation inspired to start asking those questions and start living creatively, hopefully. Thank you. Okay, that's it. I'll stop. There's a few more things, but I'll stop now.
Thank you, Zinka, so much. I'm living proof how great mentors and people that have more experience than you and good surroundings can help you to develop personally and professionally. But to go to questions, we have lovely hostess. Just raise your hand and you can ask Zinka whatever you like. Yes, we have a question here.
Okay. Hello, my name is Matteo. Your speech was amazing and thank you for it. So my question to you is, I'm a software developer and yeah, I write applications and websites and everything. And I have this problem sometimes with, I think the term is copycat syndrome. And you spoke about creativity. You're stuck with it. Okay. So copycat syndrome is like, I'm not sure if I should watch all these amazing websites and applications and try to be inspired by that, but then I end up just copying all of that, and yeah, I feel like I'm not creative because of it. Is it sometimes better to just not try to be inspired by all of that, or how do you approach that stuff? I'm not sure if you understand what I...
Yes. Okay. It's actually, copycat syndrome is called ecopraxia. Let's make it scientific. I'm kidding, but it's actually the influence that when you're exposed to certain work of similar nature, you end up repeating it. You know what? This would be almost like the first phase, the beginning phase. And if this wasn't something that's desirable, no students would ever be pointed out in the direction of researching certain things and referencing certain things. So you have to become really aware of yourself in this process and be very self-critical to the extent of recognizing what is it that you're now copying and implementing. And obviously we know that this is not acceptable, but there's nothing wrong with being inspired and taking certain elements, playing with them. And also it's part of a learning process. You can allow yourself to play and maybe make it, be aware of this process and say to yourself, okay, I'm going to engage with this now and I'm going to see what I can do. But then try to separate it from creating the process of creating a final work where you will draw from the experience, because Copycat syndrome helps us with, let's say, acquiring a certain skill more so than a conceptual knowledge. And it's in a way mode of practice. So as long as you keep it as practice and not deliver final project or product based on the process of copycat or copying, it's fine. So I would not dismiss it, but I would certainly put it in the right context.
Okay, thank you.
Does it help?
Yeah, it helps. And my second question to you is, so you mentioned when we start school, we have all these big dreams and everything that we want to achieve, and then life hits us, and yeah, it's like sometimes our dream looks that much big that we just think that we can achieve them. How do you approach that when these moments? How do you stick to it, go through it, and yeah, just don't give up? What is your framework?
You have to think out of the box, but in a really not a discreet way. You have to be a bit crazy, so to speak, you know, like a bold. And you have to challenge yourself. So when I was in Canada doing my master's and I was learning post-production, for example, I was barely having enough money to survive. I didn't want to go work at Starbucks like all my friends because I wanted to focus on school. And one day I was walking back home and I saw a bank. And well, actually I went in the bank. I had to do something and I was waiting, and they had this TV stations at the time, it was 2000. And they had this internal promotional video, and it was very bad. So I was sitting there, and this is the crazy idea. So I went up and I asked the teller, the lady who was working, if I could speak to the manager. And I was really depressed at the time because I was broke. I was working like 12, 14 hours a day, really investing in my education and really feeling miserable, like there's no end. And that day, I actually ended up talking to a manager. I said, I can make this video much nicer looking, and this is what I'm studying. And I explained what I think is wrong. And he said, okay, when can you finish it? I said, give me a week. And I did it. And from then on, things picked up in a way where it provided me with some financial security. And one video led to a next one. And it would never happen if that moment I didn't think out of the box. I kind of forced myself out of my misery, and I did something that was unexpected. And you know, I always think and ask yourselves in these situations when miserable, do something that's, you know, that you wouldn't expect. Even dare to take a shift and ask yourselves, what's the worst that can happen? And usually it's nothing. What's the worst that could happen? They can say no. Okay, let me try. So that would be, you know what, I'm sitting, I'm miserable. Okay, there's this, I'm just, you know, Googling stuff. There's this company and they have this office in Sarajevo, for example. And I would really love to have a chance to spend 2-3 hours a day in this company. I think it will uplift me and give me some positive energy. So I see their address, and then tomorrow I get ready and I go there. I make sure that I have all my resume and everything properly done. You always have to be presentable, from you know, the way you conduct yourselves, your professional outlook, your body language, your communication skills, and your materials, whatever it is that you're working on. You have to be able to sell yourselves. Why? Not in the sense of what you're able to accomplish, that too, but what your potential is. Why are you hungry for knowledge? Why are you the one they should hire as an intern or volunteer or employee? People are just not excited enough. People are mediocre, and there's that test, hand raising test. So if I, for example, to measure mediocrity, sorry, I'm digressing, but maybe this is interesting. It's always about that extra 20%. If I now tell you, well, for example, raise your hand as high as you can, and you do this, and then I say, is that the highest? And you say yes. And I said, okay, raise it even higher, and then all of a sudden you do this. So this 20% is what people are not putting in. So if you do, and this could be evident in this action. So you imagine things, as I said, but until you get up and you say, okay, tomorrow, 8 o'clock, I'm going to set my alarm. I'm going to Google Sarajevo and or whatever company of my dreams that I found, even if they all suck, they're all bad. There's one that is good. So this is where I'm going to go. Don't have the scarcity mindset, have the abundance mindset. When we think things are wrong and things are bad, they will be bad and wrong. So change it, shake yourself out of it. So again, what's the worst that can happen? You set your alarm, you go to this company tomorrow, you ask to speak to a manager, and manager sees this, woman or man, young woman or man who is maybe not educated completely, but they have passion, they have drive. They have spark in their eyes. They want to do something. They want to learn. They want to grow. And those are the people that they're looking for and that they want to hire. They don't want to hire someone who looks great on paper and who is just there because that's where they should be. So it's not as, I know now it's from my perspective, I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but really everything I've made in life, I made because I asked myself this question: what would be the craziest thing I would do now? And usually the answers provoked my actions that led to amazing things. And little by little, you start to develop these patterns of thinking that become innate, and you can't act differently. And then it becomes contagious, and you start attracting like-minded people, and you start feeling better, you start growing and changing. So did I answer?
Yeah, yes, of course, and that was a really inspirational story, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And Zinka, I need to ask, like you mentioned many times, find mentors. Can you give some practical advices, like where to find them, how to approach them? What are we need to look in mentors?
They're everywhere. They don't have to necessarily be older than you, but they need to be someone you would aspire in whatever capacity, whether it's intellect or their abilities or the status they've achieved in life. And they have to be obviously willing to engage. You would be surprised. You think it's hard, but it's not. Like myself, and I'm sure there's so many amazing people, like this foundation is such a great example. Everyone is willing to help, trust me. There are few that are not, and only because they're not at that stage yet where they're happy with themselves and able to share the knowledge and experience. But whoever has succeeded and gone through some hardships in life is more than happy to help and share the knowledge and wisdom they have. So it has to be some sort of ongoing relationship. It doesn't have to be every day. It just has to be someone who you will feel will embrace you and allow you to feel that you are on the right track and boost your self-confidence. And of course, it's a given that they would be able to give you some practical advice. So it could be related to the field, but it could be also someone who just can give you life advice and share the experience and knowledge, because very often this is so valuable. And be careful who you listen. I always say to my students, it's almost like, you can ask for advice from a divorced, marriage advice from a divorced woman or a man. You can, but is that the best advice you will get? You were probably going to ask someone who's happily married, just giving you an example. So many people will give you their opinions, will share advice. And you really have to, I would say this is one thing that allowed me to maybe become successful, is because I never, I chose who I would listen to. I chose who I would ask for advice. And usually if I didn't ask, I wouldn't listen. So find mentors on LinkedIn, find mentors on university website, email professors, show them. But again, if they get a generic email, if I get a generic email now, and I'm giving you from, I'm always honest, fully honest with my students and with everyone. We are all very busy people. I get around 120 emails a day, aside from my meetings and teaching and everything else. So you have to hook me, you have to hook my curiosity, not in an artificial way, but I read through the lines as well. If you send me some samples of your work, if you tell me why are you excited, what makes you unique and passionate, and when you position yourself properly, but for that you need to do the work. And it's not just, okay, let me sit this weekend and pull my presentation together and then I'll start emailing. It has to come from a place within, where you really have to understand what I was talking in the presentation. What's your trajectory? Why this matters? And again, advice I give my students is think 10 years ahead, for example, 20. Where do you see yourself at your 30 or 40? Describe it for yourself. Where are you? Where do you live? How does your day look like? Are you stuck, in the office, for example, editing back then, and you're fine, you don't want to be around people, or you're like running around from meetings to meetings? Are you running your own company? Are you working for someone? Are you in Africa running a charity, or whatever it is? Backtrack, and then think, what skills do you need to get there? What do you need another language? If maybe you want to go to Argentina and that's your dream, okay, you need to learn the language. So start with that. You need to acquire these. So make a map and track your way back to where you are today. Make a schedule and stick to it. And then when you know where you're going, you can say, I need a mentor in this. I would love to know more about this. Then you have a map. It's not just like, okay, what will the future bring? Where will I go? Then you're passive and you're waiting. Be proactive, as it was mentioned before. It might not be Argentina. It might be something completely different, but at least you have a path. You have something to fight for, as opposed, and it's your idea. It's not something that has been imposed by anyone else, or life-saving jacket, because everything else is failing. So it's a very delicate balance, and it's better that you are in control than you're just following the prescriptive advice. So mentors are everywhere. Reach out to, even all of us. I'm sure we're here, all the other professors, you all speak English or different languages. Find people, send 20 emails. Out of 20, maybe one will reply, 2 will reply. Enough, that's good. Tomorrow, send 20 new emails, and don't give up. It's like looking for a job. I always say, people look for jobs, and they send maybe 5 applications, and then they go around and say, oh, there's no work, really, situation's so bad, market is so bad, horrible economy. It's always been bad. When was it great? It's always great. Some people, for many, it's bad. Why? Just because they're not doing enough. Looking for work is looking for a job is a full-time job. Only when you make an Excel sheet and start logging in what you've done, and you spend 8 hours a day looking for a job, sending applications, you will find it 100%. There's no way that you won't. So again, be careful who you listen. Sorry, I'm a true professor. I don't know when to shut up.
No, thank you. I really feel that all of us sitting here feel this session really inspiring. As we're short on time, I will feel free to say all out here that they can reach out to you, but they shouldn't be generic. They should be interesting.
And let's see. Let's
personal emails. They can reach out to you in LinkedIn.
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. Please, guys, whoever is interested or has questions, please reach out on LinkedIn. And I usually don't like to promote any of my stuff when I'm doing presentations like this, because you can find me if you want, but also my email is there. So feel free to reach out. And if I was able to at least get you curious about these things, I'm very happy, and continue. It's not as hard as it seems, really. I know it's not easy. No one says it easy, but it's also not as hard and complicated. It's just a little shift that's required.
Thank you, Zinka, so much. And that
Thank
was
you
it
all.
for
Thank you.
today. I beg you, I'm pleasing big applause. I forgot the word, but
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
thanks, Zinka.